Donald J. Trump, his tenure in Oval Office was full of surprises, to say the least. It started with his election, then scandals, and a series of policy reversals followed. Many thought that it would end with his impeachment, but did not. Trump lost the 2020 presidential election, reluctantly left the White House, not to forget the Capitol insurrection. But over 2 years later, he's back on the campaign trail. His plans to run for president seem almost certain at this point as results of midterms trickled in. Donald Trump addressed his supporters at his Mar-a-Lago residence. Let's listen in.
They kept saying, well, he's good on nominations, but is he good on the general election? So as of this moment, and we have some out there, we are 80 wins and 3 losses. Is that good? Wouldn't that be funny if we were better on the general election than the nominations themselves? For Marco, the night before, with the heaviest rain I've ever been involved with, I was up there. It was beautiful, everything. This is the tropics, right, Florida? It was so beautiful. It was the most beautiful night. And all of a sudden, it turned deadly dark. And it was like you had massive pails of water that just fell on top of me. We went through the worst storm, but we gutted it out. I had no teleprompters. We had 45,000 people out there. We had no teleprompter. And I said, I wonder what Biden would do right now. But we gutted it out.
Now, as per the latest data, Republicans are in the lead. But what Trump has said is that he is the one responsible for the red wave. In the weeks leading up to the midterms, Trump re-emerged in the political space. He went state to state rooting for his fellow Republicans. What he also repeatedly touted is his role in the GOP. At more than one rally, he even hinted at a potential run for office in 2024. Many experts have been viewing these midterm elections as a semi-final for the 2024 presidential run. Neither Trump nor Biden have run in the elections today, of course, but both have been campaigning. So once the House results are completely out, it might be a forecast of how the White House might look in the next 2 years. Now, for more on this, we're now being joined by Ray Locker, who's a journalist from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast. What's your assessment of the early results that have come in from some states? The midterms have seen a better voter turnout than anticipated.
Well, I think it's been, it has not been the red wave or the red tsunami that many Republicans had hoped for. It's still early. The results are going to trickle in for the next couple of days. But they haven't regained the Senate. They probably will take the House, but by not as much of a margin as some people had thought. And I think Donald Trump's claims of victory are premature. I think he is a weakened candidate going into 2024. And if Ron DeSantis wanted to run against him, he would stand a pretty good chance.
Right. On that note, it's a tight race for Senate, as you pointed out. However, from what we've seen so far, Republicans do seem to be gaining some ground. Big win for Republicans in Florida as well, and they are set to take lead of the House. So how do you assess that?
Well, I think Florida has been trending steadily more Republican over the last 6 years. You saw in, good candidates in 2010, 2014, good Democratic candidates lose narrowly. Again in 2018, in 2020. So that state has been moving to the Republicans more steadily. And Ron DeSantis ran a very effective campaign, as did Marco Rubio. So it's a credit to them and the races they ran as to why they did so well.
All right. Also, how do you see abortion rights, inflation, gun control affecting voter sentiment?
Well, I think abortion was a big driver for a lot of women voters. Obviously, inflation, it's high, not as high as it is in other places in the world, but it's noticeable, particularly when you look at gas prices whenever you drive by a gas pump. People notice that, and they take it out on the incumbent in the White House, and in that case, it's a Democrat, Joe Biden.
Right. Also, how do you assess the fallout of this on Biden administration's policies going forward, both domestic and foreign?
Well, if he holds the Senate, then he has a much better chance of getting judicial nominations through ambassadorial appointments. And then he has a Democratic Senate to negotiate with a Republican House. And while the House may be in Republican control, it's a very fractious majority. Kevin McCarthy, if he gets elected Speaker, probably one of the weakest speakers in American history. He's not very widely respected in Congress. People think he's a nice guy, but he's not a heavyweight. So I'd say the White House would have somewhat of an advantage in inter-Congress negotiations, but I would much rather be an outsider than an insider right now.
All right. Mr. Ray Locker, thank you so much for joining us on this broadcast with your insights on this.
Thank you.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.